We got it. We're good.
10.
Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
All hands man your battle station.
Tom Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
Hey, all those bombs dropping and loading guns and everything else. We didn't mention everybody here today on Tuesday, the 30th of July, that just a couple of days ago it was the 60th anniversary of what?
I don't know. What?
60th anniversary. Anybody? In our national security team here?
53. That'd be the end
What date is it?
Close. What is it? Say it. Step up.
Step up, man.
I was going to say the Korean War.
End of the Korean War. Yeah, absolutely. 60-year anniversary Saturday.
I didn't know
I believe
that
it
was over.
Well, it's sort of over. And
I didn't know it happened. It was just a police action anyway.
just a police action. And Kim Il Sung was the dead one. Kim Il Jong, the new military brilliant leader, 25 years old or whatever he is. He had tremendous parades and missiles and guns, and he had this one group of soldiers who wore the nuclear. I've got a new term.
Uh-oh.
Nuclear.
No, I got a new term. Nukeability.
Nukeability.
Yeah, when a country gains nuke status, they have they have nukeability.
Okay.
Okay.
How's that? Does that work?
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Well, they had this one squadron of about 50 of these soldiers goose-stepping down their plaza. They all wore the nuclear symbol, the yellow symbol there. And all the commentators were going, "We have no idea what that's all about. He's trying to scare everybody with this whole thing." So yeah, and there's been a lot of specials on that war. We lost something like 30,000
Oh, it was more than
men.
that.
Millions were killed, but Americans.
Note to self: whenever a country goose steps their military, not a good country.
Not a good
Not a
deal.
good sign.
Not a good sign.
And the North Koreans are praising themselves for winning that war. And Obama gave a little speech over the weekend. And he actually said something that I agreed with. This may be the first thing that Obama's ever said that I agree with. He said, they're saying they won the war. Well, let's just take a look at the South and its industrialized capability, its culture, its arts, its economic vitality, its tourism. And let's take a look at the North, and you tell me who won the war. That was pretty good analysis that way. But hi, everybody. Tom Trento here on July 30th, 2013. National Security Radio. Our job is to make these very complex, very incoherent issues like Israel and the Palestinians
I went off a little yesterday. Yeah.
discussing. No, that was good. You did. That was good. Are you kidding me? Discussing peace in Washington, D.C. Although that makes a lot of sense. We're here to make sense out of that. And why are we here? Well, I've been running an organization called the United West for many years. It's dedicated to, it's an organization that is a counterterrorism organization, educational counterterrorism organization. We defend the U.S. Constitution, and God knows this administration is attacking that. We stand with Israel in her quest to just be left alone and not be attacked by Islamic jihad.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody. We stand against Islamic jihad. We don't hate Muslims, but we do hate the jihad element of Islam, and we're here to expose it. And the cultural jihad element. Talk about that in a little bit. And we stand against almost all things Obama, except maybe for that one statement he made about the difference
Yeah,
between
but coming
North
so
Korea.
closely after his reverential treatment of Ho Chi Minh, I'm not sure it didn't cancel itself
Scratch.
Ho
The other-
Chi Minh, so much like the founding fathers.
President Obama the other day at a reception for a Vietnamese official said, "Oh yeah, there's a similarity and a coherence and a unification between Ho Chi Minh and Thomas Jefferson."
Yeah.
Think that through. I think we'll talk about that. But we got a big show today. We have a good friend of ours
Oh,
out
there you
of.
go. It's on the screen.
There it is. Look
Good
at that.
call, Mike.
Oh, Obama says Vietnamese dictator inspired by founding fathers.
Yeah.
Say
Truly
it. Say it.
amazing.
Crazy
Truly
stuff.
amazing.
But that's what we do. Our job is to expose the absurdities and the fallacies of the jihad of the Obama administration. We do that through our organization, which is an educational organization that has a lot of red lights all over the place. And red
none of
lights.
them are on
Red
right
lights
now.
a clue. Yeah, none of them are on now. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. There we go. That actually helps. And we do that by our show here on TrentoVision. This is just our daily show. We have a whole host of things planned for you in the future, and we'll get into some of that. But today's show is unique. Fella out of Boston. I'll tell you about him in a minute because we need to say hello. Tell
We do.
everybody a little bit about how to watch us. And
Hi, we are
That's brilliant.
TrentoVision, and you are listening to us on WNN 1470 AM from Miami to Orlando. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio.
I'll sign.
iHeartRadio.
Okay, I'll sign.
It's a really easy app you could get for your smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch us on TrentoVision.tv, or you're so cute when you do that. Or also you can watch us on the teapartycommunity.com.
Tea Party
Hello,
Community.
Tea Party people. You can watch us. You can link to us from Bare Naked Islam. Hi, Bonnie. Great site. Thank you. And
You recognize
can-
this Italian?
Yes, I'm getting to
Okay,
it.
okay.
I'm getting to it. If you missed our show at 5 o'clock Eastern, Monday to Friday, you can catch us on the archives at youtube.com.
Don't forget this.
/The United West. And speaking of the United West, if you visit theunitedwest.org, you will see a little button, and you can click on it to donate
Yes.
securely.
Yes.
That's what this is.
A little bit of
the
scratch.
universal language of love.
Of love.
And also,
Yes.
if you're following us on teapartycommunity.com, what you can do is that little wheel in your upper right-hand corner says United West. Click on that and subscribe to our channel. And this way you can spread the word.
And when we send it out, it goes right into your inbox, ladies and gentlemen. And in your box may be Imam Abdullah. You never know when that guy shows up. Hello, Imam. How are you today?
Very good, infidels, and you?
Doing well. We're gonna talk about some of your colleagues who got a little rambunctious in Boston, and maybe possibly the failure of some of the intelligence and law enforcement agencies in the United States up there. How about that?
Possible failures?
Well, it has a lot to do with my real my friends and my cohorts having your intelligence books cleared of any reference to jihad and Islam and terrorism. So it makes it very easy. I mean, the FBI is really not to blame.
Interesting how that works. Okay, well, we got a lot of stuff for you today, folks, but we truly want to get into the Boston bombing. And when it happened, I think it was the 15th of April, wasn't it? Was it tax day on the 15th?
Yes.
I believe it was Monday the 15th. We covered it extensively. I think it was Tuesday the 16th. We did an extended show on Inspire magazine and the pressure cooker bombs.
Right.
And remember, we actually showed the making of the bomb. We left out a couple of key components so that nobody does that stuff, but it's on the internet.
Not hard to find.
And we have a connection with Boston through colleagues of ours who are up there. They run an organization called Americans for Peace and Tolerance. And the founder of that is Charles Jacobs. And Charles, key guy, a wonderful friend of ours, Ilya F, I'll say.
Okay.
And we'll let him introduce himself and all of that. But let's bring him on. Is Ilya available for us on one of these cameras?
Yes, another one of your Islamophobic friends is,
There he
appears to be ready.
Ilya is the director of research for Americans for Peace, and Tolerance. Yeah.
And the website is right up on our screen, folks, peaceandtolerance.org. If you're driving in your automobiles, you're on 1470 AM. Good place to be to listen to us, 5 to 6, Steve Kane, 6 to 9, Holly Meredith, 4 to 5. And if you're watching on TV, you can see Ilya's face right there. And if you want to watch on TV, go to our archives a little later in the evening, Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock or after 5 o'clock.
After 6.
After 6.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/
The United West.
Okay.
And I have to say one comment about Americans for Peace and Tolerance, because usually when an organization has peace or tolerance in their title, you could sure bet that their agenda is the complete opposite of that. It's kind of like when countries have the word democratic in their title, then they're not. This is the exception.
Yeah, not these guys.
Not these
These
guys.
guys are
These are
looking
the
for-
good. These are the good guys.
These are the good guys.
Yeah.
And we met several years ago up in Boston. And we'll get into how we met, what we did up there. But Ilya, hi, how are you? Welcome to our show today.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Let's do this. You're the research director for Americans for Peace and Tolerance. Give us a little, some of your bona fides. Who are you? What's your background? And then what is your job specifically? And then I got a couple of questions on Charles, and then we'll get into your findings, your unbelievable findings.
I'm a biologist by training, but I've been researching the Islamic threat in Boston for the past 6 years now, working with Americans for Peace and Tolerance. And because of a libel lawsuit against our organization by the Islamic Society of Boston, which is the mosque that the marathon bombers attended, we were able to get pretty much all of their internal records, bank records, emails, all these things, which we've been looking through for quite a long time, and we have a really good understanding of the radical Islamic network in Boston.
Wow.
Okay, now, this is very important, folks. Ilya works with Charles Jacobs. And Charles, give us 30 seconds on Charles' background, Ilya.
Charles started out his activist career freeing jihad slaves in Sudan, where the northern Arabs would raid down into the Christian and animist territories in South Sudan and take children and women as slaves, bring them back up to their territory, and basically keep them as slaves as housemaids or as shepherds, and of course as concubines. So that's where Charles really ran into the issue of Islamic supremacy and has been working on it for several decades now.
Yeah, he developed
He's the number one guy in the
he was the
field
number
for
one
that.
guy back in the 90s, I believe
Yeah.
it was. Back
He
in the
started
90s.
He started in the late 80s.
In
I
the
think.
80s.
Yeah.
And went to the Sudan, fought for the rights of those oppressed by Islamic Jihad. And then started, I believe he was fundamental in starting an organization, Camera. He's a Jewish fellow, Zionist. And then he got very, very deeply involved in specifically fighting Islamic Jihad. And he and I have a commonality that we joke about. We're both born and raised in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh,
So,
I didn't realize
yeah.
he was from New
He's
Jersey.
from-
I
he's
would have
from
asked
Jersey.
him what exit.
You got to ask him. He'll know. And I got invited to Boston years back. I think it was 2009. If we have any of that footage, you guys can roll it. We got invited, myself, Frank Gaffney, a few others, to stand with Ilya and Charles and some of their team to protest, to picket, legally, peaceably, with tolerance, picket the opening of, here it is right here,
Roxbury Mall.
on your screen is June of 2009. A slimmer, less gray-haired Tom Trento there on your screen. June of 2009, telling me 4 years ago. And you'll see, we'll play some of this video as Ilya goes through the day. He's in it. There's Charles Jacobs
There's Charles, yeah.
right there with Frank Gaffney in the background, addressing a small group, about 50 of us. And then we have some confrontations with some of the specific jihadis that Ilya will be talking about. So, Damon, you play that as it fits to kind of salt it into the conversation. But what Ilya has said so far is that there was a lawsuit, if you can come back to us here. There was a lawsuit. Ilya, when did the Islamic Society of Boston, when did they file the lawsuit against you guys, and what was the basis for the lawsuit?
It was 2005, and we've been warning about this Islamic Society of Boston for 10 years already. We started bringing certain allegations as early as 2003, namely that this mosque was run, and one of its trustees, one of its 6 trustees at this time, was Yusuf al-Qaradawi, the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Wait a minute.
And
Wait a minute.
Excuse me.
Qaradari was associated. He wasn't in the U.S. back then, was he?
by that time, he was already banned from coming to the United States. That still didn't stop this mosque from recording a video message from him for one of its fundraisers, and also claiming very explicitly that Qaradawi is very much behind this project, and we appreciate his support.
And get everybody up to speed. What is Yosef Qaradari doing today, right now?
Qaradawi today is basically stoking the Muslim Brotherhood's resistance to being taken out of power, and is basically urging for jihad against the secularist Egyptians. He is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and he lives in Qatar, where the government of Qatar has given him a show on Al Jazeera, and through that show he spews some of the most vile anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-American rhetoric to millions of people in the Arab world.
All right, Damon, see if you can get us on Al Jazeera. See if we can do a little show.
Al Gore Zera.
Yeah, Al Gore Zera. But
Yeah.
Yosef Qaradari, who is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, folks, was instrumentally involved in the Islamic Society of Boston, which birthed a couple of mosques. We're going to get into that. But about a month or so ago, Qaradari said to the Muslim Brotherhood fighters in Syria, slice the throats of the Shia. It is your duty under Allah. Cut their heads off, kill them. This is the lethality of a living, breathing individual today who's directly related to the bombing in Boston, as we're going to see right now as a leader. There he is. There's Yosef Qaradari on the screen. CJ, you got a question?
Yeah, I just want to also add one thing to the resume of Americans for Peace and Tolerance, because we did a program with them.
Oh, right.
Last summer, highlighting their film "Losing Our Sons." And if you go to their website, peaceandtolerance.org, you can actually order a copy of that. That was the first jihad attack since 9/11 that happened in the United States, preceded what happened at Fort Hood. And Charles worked with you and with us to
put
get
all that together
to put
for
all
that-
that together. And I think, especially because of what happened in Boston, because of the Boston bombing, we need to talk more about the radicalization of the youth in this country. We've had the arrests in Florida, in Jacksonville. We've had the Kazi brothers in Miami. Homegrown jihad is becoming big business for
And these guys
for
in
young
Boston.
people.
These
And
guys in
in
Boston, yeah.
Boston are the ones who are inspiring and training these people.
Well, our guys, Ilya and Charles.
No. Through
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mo-
yeah. Oh,
through
sure,
that
yeah, yeah,
mosque,
yeah.
through the
But they
that
have
mosque.
been
And they're exposing.
they've
it.
been
They're-
exposing
they're the ones
Tariq Mahenna and all
exposing it.
these
They're
other guys.
They're out there ringing the bell saying, hey, look what's happening to our young people. You guys need to pay attention. So this all part of a bigger
This
picture.
is-
This is not just one incident in Boston. And Americans for Peace and Tolerance has been at the forefront of exposing that. So I
At
just wanna make sure
19
people
at
know
19
that.
minutes after 5 o'clock on Tuesday, July 30th, folks, we're here with Ilya, Research Director for Americans for Peace and Tolerance, based in Boston, 10-year history, trying to expose the cultural lethality, the jihad lethality of an organization, Islamic Society of Boston, and their mosques. All right, Ilya, let's pick up with a lawsuit. You guys were, back in 2003 or so, warning people. And then what happened? Out of the dark, a lawsuit was filed, or was there confrontation in the public square? What was the genesis of the suit against you?
Well, according to their emails, internal emails that we got in the lawsuit, we know that they had plotted this lawsuit as a way to shut us up. Basically, some of our allegations have generated local news coverage. The local Fox channel covered it. The Boston Herald covered it. And they were writing to each other saying, look, if we sue these guys, their lawyers are going to make them shut up while the lawsuit is going on. They had no chance of winning. Everything we were saying was correct. We didn't say Qaradawi was intimately involved with them. Their own filings with the IRS said Qaradawi was involved with them. We didn't say that they were founded by, Al-Qaeda fundraiser Abdul Rahman Al-Amoudi, who's now in jail for 23 years. Their own incorporating papers said that they were founded by Al-Amoudi. So they knew they had no chance of winning this thing, but they thought they could intimidate us into silence. They didn't count on us fighting it. And when we did fight it, it turned out pretty badly for them.
All right, now I want to stay here for a second, Ilya, and we have a lot to do on the Boston situation. But in terms of this lawsuit, folks, the other side, the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, they use lawsuits in a warfare kind of modality, and they
Right.
call it lawfare, like warfare. And it's very simple. Whack the little guy, Ilya and Charles, with a gigantic suit. It'll just suck the life out of them, suck the defense money out of them, and they'll run and hide and go away. Well, that didn't happen with Ilya and Charles. They hung in there. And then there's this little thing called discovery. Tell everybody what
Yeah.
happened in discovery.
So
Look how his
this
face
is a great
lights
thing
up. It's
about
like, okay, we
lawsuits,
get the
especially
big
if you're defending against a frivolous one. So when they make certain allegations, we have the right to try to prove them wrong, according to the American system of justice. Specifically, they claimed that, they can't just say that we lied about them. They have to show that it hurt them some way. So they said, oh, everybody's afraid of us. They called us terrorists, and that's not fair. Now none of our wonderful members are willing to give us donations because they don't want to be associated with terrorism. So when they say that, we have a right to say, okay, give us all your bank records because we need to see how much donations you are bringing in.
Right.
And of course, in the context of that, we can go through and see all their transactions. And we did, and there were many of them with terrorist entity money going to terrorist entities, money coming from terrorist entities. The majority of their funding was coming from Saudi Arabia, from wealthy Saudi Arabian sheikhs. And we were able to see all that, as well as basically all their documents from third parties, from their PR agents, from their communications with the city of Boston. Huge data trove. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of pages. We have
Wow.
41 boxes of just page after page, thousands of pages of their documents.
All right, what we're doing, folks, in this analysis right now, we're looking at a bombing that took place in Boston on April 15th. And we're tracking back the involvement of Ilya and Charles Jacobs, Americans for Peace and Tolerance, going back to 2003, literally 10 years before the bombing. And their research, their investigation, their exposés started uncovering the jihad component of the Islamic Society of Boston. Now, what day, if you remember, was the lawsuit actually filed?
Sometime in March of 2005.
Okay, so you guys start digging around. 2 years later, they sue you. The suit was eventually settled or dropped. What was the disposition of the suit and when?
They called to drop the lawsuit right before two things were going to happen. One, we were going to depose one of their most vulnerable members. This was basically a guy who worked for the city of Boston as in the Boston Redevelopment Agency, the agency that assigns plots of land to various developers, and was also a member of this mosque, and of course basically negotiated a sweetheart deal with himself, working both for the city and for the mosque, where a piece of prime Boston real estate went to the mosque. It cost $2 million. They got it for $200,000.
Wow.
The other thing, we were going to actually get a huge trove of their internal documents that they were clinging to the most. So they decided it wasn't worth it. They've been damaged enough already. They dropped the lawsuit in 2007.
Okay, this is very important for everybody out there fighting the jihad. And we have many, many people that listen on the radio every day, and then the video goes all over the place, the show. Here's a small organization, underfunded. We know, we've been up there. They don't even have fresh coffee at their offices, let me tell you.
Come on, what's up with that?
I know.
Now we do.
Oh, you do? You got a Keurig machine, I guess.
We got a Keurig machine.
Oh my
the wrong
God.
way. Okay.
Well, they're overfunded,
Can we give a
folks.
donation, please?
They're overfunded. If you want to help get good coffee for their Keurig, go to AmericansForPeaceAndTolerance.org and donate there. But a couple of guys with a small staff start digging around, doing the hard work. This is by way of motivation for everybody out there fighting in the United States of America. From 2003 to 2005, they uncover a problem. They get sued by the Islamic Society of Boston. They're in a suit for 2 years. Now when things start to ramp up and they're going to stick on, depose a guy who worked with the city, who was given this land by the biggest nitwit in America, who's a Mayor Thomas Menino. What a...
Mumbles.
What? Mumbles?
Mayor Mumbles. we
Mayor
call him.
Mumbles. He talks like that. He's just a dope. And he's a dope on many levels. He has been sucked in by the jihadis. And we need 3 hours to do this show. But in any event, 2005, I'm going to give a timeline and then back up. We're going to have a nice analysis of the situation. 2005, the suit's filed. 2007, the suit is dropped. And then what happened between 2007 and when we were up there in June of 2009? What did you guys do for those 2 years?
I have a question.
Okay,
that
wait,
relates
one
to
question.
this. Yeah, one question. Yeah. I'm curious why it seems like you had a lot of revelations about this mosque come out during your lawsuit discovery process. How come this place wasn't shut down?
Good question.
Why are
The
they
facts
still in
don't matter up
business?
in Boston. The ISB, using tens of thousands of dollars and 3 local PR companies that are very cozy with the main Boston institutions like the Boston Globe, the City of Boston, the major universities. They spun the story as an issue of hatred and racism against a poor, disenfranchised minority of Muslims, and that basically we were a bunch of right-wing, rich Jews out to get the poor Muslims.
Okay, but
And unfortunately, they had a lot of support from a large portion of the Jewish community,
But
the
just-
left-wing Jews.
just
Absolutely.
to be clear here, okay? You uncovered evidence of terrorist connections.
Clear.
Clear.
Yeah.
Absolutely clear-cut terrorist connections between the Islamic Society of Boston. and terrorist organizations. And the United States government,
It gets worse than this.
okay, the United States government, the FBI doesn't get involved.
No, they
Not
did.
curious to
They did.
see
They
what's
did.
happening, but doesn't follow through and shut the place down.
They did get involved.
Okay, let's
So,
well, leave that.
this
Leave
guy
that.
that we were
but
talking
you
about.
see, I want that to be
There's
hanging
Menino.
in the
Yes,
background because
yes.
it's relevant to
Looks like a
what
goofball.
comes next.
All right, we're showing right now, folks, at 29 minutes after 5 o'clock on July 30th. We have Ilya, the researcher for Americans for Peace and Tolerance, an organization that has been fundamentally in the middle of the Boston bombing for over 10 years. And we're tracing right now a timeline with Ilya from, and we're doing it for several reasons, to lay out how this the situation was so mishandled by the authorities, political authorities and law enforcement authorities in Boston, and how a few guys working hard got it right and have been vindicated from the lawsuits and all the bad press they got. We're in 2007 right now. And my question to you, Ilya, was between 2007, when the ISB, Islamic Society of Boston, dropped their lawsuit because you were going to nail them in depositions, to 2009, when we were there standing at the ribbon cutting, myself, Gaffney, and others, by your invitation, of the Roxbury Mosque, one of the two Islamic Society of Boston mosques. What happened in those 2 years? Then we'll pick up from 2009 to 13.
Well, to tell you the truth, those 2 years for both our side and for the Islamic Society of Boston were sort of years of retrenchment. We kind of dug in, investigated all the materials that we received in the lawsuit, and started building our case, talking to people, creating dossiers, writing, sort of summarizing all this and preparing the weapons almost to launch the next phase of the fight. The ISB took their requisite moment out of the public spotlight. In fact, they Anthony Weiner follows this strategy where you
You had to work a
Stay
wiener
out
in,
for a while.
right? You had to work a wiener
and you
in.
say, we've changed. And that's what they did 2 years later. They said, oh, we've totally changed, you know. Everything, we were supporting terrorism before, and now we're, you know, growing
admitted to
bunnies in the
supporting
basement.
terrorism before?
We're wonderful, peace-loving people now. Yes, we had issues in the past, but now everything's okay. And let's move on, and let's be one big, happy, multicultural Boston family.
Oh, gosh.
So that was the case in 2009. When you were there, as you saw, they got the governor on board, they had the mayor on board, lots of Jewish and Christian clergy that they started working with. They infiltrated the Greater Boston Interfaith Organization during those times, which gave them a lot of cover from
They
left-wing
infiltrated?
clergy.
Hey, right now, Ilya, we're showing some B-roll of the moment when all of us were on one side. The police had us across the street from the ribbon cutting of the Roxbury Mosque. And remember the imam who got thrown out of Northeastern, what's his name?
Abdullah Farouk?
Farouk, I believe. Yeah, he and some of the other Islamic leaders came over and started handing out white roses to us. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah,
And
it's the Guns N' Roses imam.
Guns N' Roses.
and then Ilya just starts asking them.
Ilya's a trip,
He
man.
just starts asking them these cutting questions like, well, what about this? And what about that? And you were here, and I saw you here. So 2009, they have this ribbon cutting. Tell us a little bit about this little tiny mosque in the middle of the black community in Boston.
Well, not quite so tiny. The original Islamic Society of Boston building was located in Cambridge. The ISB was founded by Muslim brothers who came to study at MIT and Harvard. Most of them professors, ended up being professors or professionals. And they live in the Boston suburbs and around Cambridge. Now, when they decided to build their mosque, for some reason, they built it as far away as possible from where they actually live. which had a reason because they want to proselytize among American marginalized minority groups who have historic grievances against America. And take advantage of those grievances to basically stoke them, convert them to Islam, and say that this isn't, this country is not for you. This democracy is not your system. You have to fight this system that's hurt you so much, and they are able to brainwash quite a lot of people.
So let me ask you.
I would say they do 1 to 5 conversions every day in the higher paced times like Ramadan.
So
well, where they are, hang on one second. Where they are, he's saying it very nicely.
Yeah.
They dumped this gigantic 50,000 square foot,
the ghetto.
$16 million mosque
Mega mosque.
right in the
Yeah.
ghetto. Right in the ghetto,
Right.
and that's their fertile fields.
And while they're brainwashing them, do they happen to mention the fact that that blacks being kept as slaves is still going on today by Muslims in other lands? I mean, do they bother to tell them that, or they just tell them how bad Whitey is?
Well, at the opening ceremony, we asked the imam directly, the Guns N' Roses imam, and he said, "No, there's no slaves in Sudan."
Yeah.
No, because they killed them all, right?
They killed
All
them
right,
true.
so here's what we have, folks. 34 minutes after 5 o'clock on the 30th of July. TrentoVision with CJ, the boys here. Our special guest, Skyped in from Boston, is Ilya. Ilya is out of the Soviet Union and
Siberia.
Is Iberia? Where? Iberia. What'd you say?
Siberia.
Siberia, yeah, I was going to say. Out of Siberia, and studied at Dartmouth, worked in the area of biology, and is a phenomenal researcher, analyst, has been working for years on Islamic jihad in the Boston area, actually worldwide, has been a significant part of many documentaries that Charles and
a lot of people have been to, right?
several people have put together. So what we're doing right now, because they just came out with a piece in response to the Rolling Stones cover photo of Dzhokhar Sarnev and his romanticization, they had a piece in American Thinker saying, excuse me, we spoke to the FBI a while back about this. So
Right.
for the FBI right now to say, we didn't know the ISB, Islamic Society of Boston, had jihadis is absurd on its face and a lie factually. But we're tracing a timeline. For those of you just tuning into the show on the radio or on the internet TV, these guys, Ilya and Charles, started out in 2003. 2005, they get sued by the Islamic Society of Boston. 2007, the suit is dropped. By then, they had a treasure trove of intelligence from which to launch an investigation into all the characters up there. That information in 2009 positioned them to protest the building of this mosque, and we're showing some B-roll, but also to make a little visit to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Tell us about that visit.
Sorry, could you repeat the investigation part?
Yeah, your 2 years of retrenching and researching enabled you to make a little visit in 2009 to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and drop a dime on the ISB. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it just so happened that in 2009, the FBI arrested a local failed terrorist. Now, what people don't realize about Boston is, although these two Tsarnaev brothers succeeded, before them came at least four terrorists actually, in 3 separate terrorist acts or attempts that were stopped. These people have direct connections to the leadership and to the mosques of the Islamic Society of Boston. And in 2009, it happened that they arrested a man named Tarek Mahana. The FBI arrested a man named Tarek Mahana, who was going to get automatic weapons and shoot up shopping malls in the Boston area with his co-conspirator who managed to flee to Syria, Ahmad Abu Samra, who happened to be the son of the vice president of the ISB mosque.
Okay, this gets crazy.
So like 0 degrees
well,
of separation.
Tariq Mahena is a physician, isn't he? A doctor or he went to pharmacy school.
Pharmacist.
Okay, and we have some fascinating video. I think you included it in your report, Ilya. We're gonna show it in a minute of the supporters of Tariq Mahena. I don't want to show it yet. Did you provide that in one of your articles?
Yeah, get your eye bleach ready.
Yeah, get your what?
Get your eye bleach ready.
Yeah, your eye bleach ready. No, oh yeah.
On the supporters.
We can't.
No audio on it, or
No audio on it.
but
How
we
come?
can show it.
Yeah, we could show it. It's
Right. We're actually
no, not this. No, not this audio. The other audio that is on the script, Damon. It's the 1 minute of dancing hairy armpit girls supporting Tariq Mahena. This is a bizarre. Well, let
It's
me get
a
all the
separate
pieces.
email.
Yeah, this is very funny, folks. But
It's the groupies.
it's the groupies of these jihadis. Now, Tariq Mahena, I don't know if you know this, Ilya, but he has a connection to South Florida, to Fort Myers. There was a jihadi who is in jail now. I think he's in jail now. He was a pill mill doctor, and he got busted in Fort Myers. And there was a lot of question about his role in Islamic Jihad funding. And it turns out that he was making trips back and forth to Boston. And he, not only was he a graduate of the same school that Tariq Mahena graduated from, what was the name of that again? Was it Massachusetts Institute of...
I think it's New England School of Pharmacy. Massachusetts School of Pharmacy.
Massachusetts School of Pharmacy. The individual I'm referring to made a ton of money illegally and then built a building for Massachusetts Institute of Pharmacy. They named the building after him. Tariq Mahena was a student there, and apparently there was some collusion between these two guys. We're still looking into that. But once the guy in Fort Myers, Florida, was busted, and his name skips me right now, the pharmacy school pulled his name off the building. But you have a real-life jihadi, Tariq Mahena, who is in jail right now. That's just one of the glamorized and glorified young jihadis. Who else did you have? And when these guys cue it up, I'll show you some of the video that.
Do you guys have it? I just sent you the link for that video that Tom wants.
Okay.
Yeah, you take the lowest of the low of the Occupy movement, and you somehow dress them up in Islamic thought, and you have the cheerleaders for Islamic Jihad with the absolute worst written and worst sung song I think I've ever heard in my life. But we'll show you that in a little bit. Who else did you have in 2009, and what precipitated you finally going to the FBI saying, "Hey, we got to tell you about a problem here"?
Another terrorist affiliated with the ISB is Afia Siddiqui, who is now actually might be set free by the Obama administration, which, according to Breitbart, is thinking about trading her for the doctor, the hero doctor who helped us get Osama bin Laden, whom the Pakistanis, who are supposed to be our allies and very much against bin Laden, for some reason arrested after that.
The ones who hosted
put in
him
jail.
for all those years?
So, Afia Siddiqui is an MIT graduate, also a biological scientist, who was radicalized at MIT by some of the members of the ISB mosque, specifically the MIT chaplain. and basically ran off to Afghanistan and was caught there. I think 2008 maybe.
I remember all
With
remember her, yeah.
a large amount of cyanide and plans for a chemical attack on New York City.
Right.
She tried to shoot an FBI agent and was convicted for attempted murder, I think in 2010, and put in jail for 86 years. So she's a big rock star in Boston as well,
Right.
among the leftist crew here. There was an event at Cambridge Public Library in her support called Free Sister Afia.
Right.
And of course, the Islamist community is also very active in calling for her release. The Guns N' Roses imam was a friend of her, and has been the most active in calling for her release, saying that, for example, in an audio that Stephen Emerson's group was able to get, for a fundraiser for Afia Siddiqui, he was saying that what a brave woman she is for shooting at the FBI agents, and you should be angry at the government who would do such things to a wonderful woman like Afia Siddiqui. And, pick up the gun and the sword, go and do your job, is his words. So these two are very much rock stars among both the leftist and the Islamist community in Boston.
Ilya,
Well,
So-
what got you into the FBI? You had a meeting with the FBI, you guys, to alert them as to these problems and the problems with the ISB, Islamic Society of Boston, right?
Yeah, there was a right-thinking person in the law enforcement community in Boston who understands the threat, and he basically had the, I think it was the head of the field office at the time at the FBI and a couple of other agents sit in on a presentation of all this information that we shared with the FBI. I've kept the PowerPoint. I looked back over it. Everything was there. In terms of especially the things that Robert Mueller claims he doesn't know now, like the fact that the mosque was founded by a convicted al-Qaeda terrorist. He claimed that he didn't know, and a variety of other things.
All right, now this is a very important point, folks. 2009, a dossier on the Islamic Society of Boston was handed over to the FBI, and in it, it said, this mosque has one of its founders is Abdul Rahman Al-Amoudi, who was a right-hand man to George Bush. And I think we're getting ready for the, was involved in a plot to kill Gaddafi, with Gaddafi, to kill a prince in Saudi Arabia. He's part of the Islamic Society of Boston, and this was handed over to the FBI in 2009. Now Robert Mueller, the director of the FBI, is saying we had no idea.
Now, Robert Mueller didn't, it wasn't just like he made a blanket statement to just anybody. He testified to this in front of Louis Gohmert on the congressional floor. He had no idea, no knowledge, never been briefed, never ever heard of it, never even heard
told me.
You would think,
never even heard of Abdul Rahman Al-Amoudi.
you would think that Ilya and Charles and their team hands over a file, a tangible file, digital and paper, to the FBI on the Islamic Society of Boston, that the FBI would file that.
Yes.
And you'd think when people from the Islamic Society of Boston, the Sarnev brothers, blow up the place, they'd go into that file and go, what do we know about
what
this?
do we know about these guys?
Gee,
No,
that mosque,
never
it
heard
rings
of
a
it.
bell.
Never heard of
CJ,
it.
We
you got a
have
question?
anything on that?
You got a question
Yeah,
for
I'm-
Ilya, and then we'll
Yeah.
finish the timeline.
You talk about in connection with Siddiqui, and it's going to come up with the Tsarnaev brothers. What is this radicalization that happens? All of a sudden, what is this magical radicalization process?
Poof, Matter Brothers. Poof,
Yeah,
they're radicalized. Poof.
just everyday Americans, everyday citizens to be, whatever they are,
Sudden
and
ra-
all of a sudden they just happen to walk into a mosque one day, and then poof, they're radicalized.
Sudden radicalization syndrome is what it's called. CJ.
It's a gradual process, and
How do they
when
get
you
picked?
walk into a mosque as a stranger, you're not going to see much of this because the process is set up in circles. On the very outmost circle, the mosque, for all intents and purposes, to the observer is a religious and charitable organization. It provides social services, does very good things, just like the Muslim Brotherhood's institutions in Egypt on the surface.
Right.
But they look for and recruit certain individuals that match certain characteristics, whether they're extremely devout or potentially have certain social or psychological issues that could be exploited, and they bring them in further. It's a discrete process that has mostly remained unchanged even as the Muslim Brotherhood migrated out of Egypt and into Western countries. The process is called tarbiyah, training. In Egypt, it's a 5-year process. In the United States, from what we understand, is a 3-year process. And there are specific programs that are used, that people join, young people join. They are put into a cell called an usra in Arabic, which literally means family. And they meet weekly with their cell members and study certain books. The first year, it's pretty much the Quran. It's some of the more benign books on religion. The second year, it starts getting a bit more intense. You're starting to see books by Maulana Maududi, who's the father of jihad on the Indian subcontinent, Hassan al-Banna, the founder of
The Brotherhood. Right.
And they eventually start teaching you books like Milestones, which is really the foundational text of the jihad movement, of the modern jihad movement, by Saeed Qutb, the book that inspired Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and countless other jihadis. So they're teaching this stuff in the mosques. We seize their curriculum, which lists chapter and verse of all these. Oh, great. There it is. Very dog-eared.
It should be.
I see you're studying it yourself very intently.
Yes.
Well, that's what I want.
So,
Kill the West, kill the Jew, kill the
people
Christian.
listening to understand that this is a targeted process. When we say, we're not going after Muslims, all Muslims. We know that all Muslims who go to a mosque to pray are not involved in this type of activity. But there are layers within these societies, within these mosques that need to be penetrated, that need to be looked at. Our young people who are attending these mosques in search of themselves and religion and philosophical fulfillment are vulnerable to the process that they encounter when they just wander into these places. They're targeted in the same way that cults target vulnerable people.
Right.
And people outside of this world need to understand that.
But there's a caveat here that's critical. The radicalization is not in contradistinction, as cults often are, to the doctrine. It's coherent with the doctrine.
With the doctrine, right.
The real question is, how come more Muslims don't follow the doctrine of Islam and become lethal? Thank God they don't. That's the
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I give just to inspire people, to do what Ilya does and the small staff that he has and the dogged research that he does. And I know it's not for fame and fortune and everything. It's actually to make a difference inside your community. I know for a fact that, Ilya has the ear of many congressmen, one in particular we were on a call with the other day. And his information is being used specifically on the House floor to question people, like Mueller and everybody else. And it's it's an inspiration of what he is doing by himself and his group, up there, and his dogged research. And to make a difference in the society, to make a difference in our culture, to help fight this radicalization, it doesn't take 5 million people. It just takes a passionate few like Ilya to get the ear of prominent people. And he's not looking for millions of hits on YouTube. He's wanting to make get things done in
strategically.
Washington.
Yep.
And his work and the whole group's work is, should be applauded and thanked, because without him, without his work, there would be no talk of this in Washington D.C. or on the
Well,
floor?
we have just the people, Ilya. Do we have just the people? We have
Yes.
just the people to hail your work. Let's play. You probably can't see it, but we're going to play these folks cheering you on, Ilya, in your work against Islamic jihad, and it's going to appear on our screen right now. Now, listen and watch, folks. Bring the volume up a little. Dr. Tariq Mahanna refused to be an FBI informant. He would not lie about his community.
What hairy armpits on that one?
Set him free. You got everybody driving in your car. You got to go home and watch youtube.com/United West just to watch this 1 minute jazzercise video with its own soundtrack,
Scorch my
dancing
corneas.
and skagging and what are you doing?
Go ahead. We've lost you.
Oh, we love Ilya. Okay.
Well, we'll get him back.
We'll get him back. We'll get Ilya back. This was a group brought together in Boston. This is the mindset of the left. I mean, this is really getting crazy, this stuff. But supporting Tariq Mahanna, who's in jail right now. We got him back. You there, Ilya? No. I'm hearing strange noises.
Strange noises, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, as
there
we
we
get
go.
him back, we had a couple of minutes
Yeah.
left. We want to find out where these guys were. I think that's background noise on his. There he is. You're back, Ilya. Hi. Can you see us?
Background noise. So yeah, we don't have him on a audio connection.
We don't have you on an audio connection
okay.
yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
we'll
working
work
on
it.
it.
Take it back
We're
to-
working on it.
Okay, we're going to
Okay.
fix that.
To update everybody, and I think we're going to have Ilya back because
Absolutely.
we didn't even get to the part about the Boston bombers.
No, I think where he was, where these guys were, and then what took place immediately after the bombing, which was April 15th, May, June, July, 3 months. They have been on Charles Jacobs and Ilya Feoktistov have been on a treadmill.
You blew his name down.
Well,
that's okay.
That was bad.
Feoktistov. There you go. That's phonetically.
Feoktistov.
Yeah, we're gonna try to reboot the Skype here and see if we can get him.
All right, if we
Okay.
can, we only got about a minute or two left, but
Yeah,
we
have
will
like
have
2
him
minutes
back
left. Yeah,
very near future.
Let him listen.
We'll pick up from 2009
yeah,
to the bombing,
yeah.
April 2013, and then what they've been doing
because
since.
we have to
Yeah, where
highlight
this is
Most
going.
definitely.
The
I mean, fascinating.
how ridiculous that the FBI was warned years before this happened
And did
by the
nothing.
Russian government and by Ilya and Charles and a lot of other people warning the FBI about what's happening at this mosque. The FBI was specifically warned about these brothers
Oh, it's
2
crazy.
years before. And then after the bombing, came out and totally denied that they had any knowledge. And they are refusing to monitor what's happening with the Islamic Society of Boston and their mosques since then.
And one of the good pieces
Because
of news.
offending somebody's cultural sensibilities is more important than defending the United States of America.
None of us do this to be vindicated in any way, shape, or manner, but to see these guys, Charles and Ilya, vindicated in terms of all the work they've done by the sad events that occurred and the position they're in now, saying, we told you so, we gave it to
And
you.
here's the rub on it.
So-
Even though they said it was going to be true, they said it was going to happen, it happened, they told them they were vindicated. What is happening to that mosque?
That's the question we're going to ask and
Exactly.
answer when we bring Ilya back. We'll bring him back in the very near future, but right now, folks,
Yeah,
we got to
great
say
job, Ilya.
goodbye.
Bye.
Great job.
Thank
Been a
you,
great
Ilya.
show. Ilya, Charles, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
See everybody.
Sa mga kaliham.
We're out of there.